Hi, I'm Cameron, self-proclaimed Scrabble legend, and this is me. I was born and raised in our very own Irvine, California by two parents of dichotomous passions and work ethics. The talented and a little work-shy cellist, my mom, and the pediatric dentist, my dad. I lived with my mom for most of my life, and I guess it's safe to say that pieces of her personality permeated into mine a little more than anyone could have hoped. For example, her sardonicism, existential angst, and ironically, her undying belief that everything will turn out okay. Learning to understand my mom and myself in relation to her was, and still very much is, a mystery to me. We're close, but we don't have any photos together, and I guess that sort of defines our relationship. I still have a lot to unpack in that realm, and when I do get there, I'll be one step closer to understanding my world. And then there's my dad, the battering ram of inspiration in my life and a weirdly upstanding knowledge of the English language. He was never afraid to sit me down for hours at a time and just talk to me about how I should live. This discourse would have been painful if it weren't for his aggressive belief in moral independence. But I think the most important thing that my dad taught me as a child was balance, in more ways than one. Balance in academics, balance at home, and balance when the world tries to devour me whole. Another facet of my childhood was my relationship with my sister, Valerie. She's currently 21, 3 years older than me, but my parents always said that she was about 6 years ahead in mental age, something that I still completely agree with. Now, my sister and I had very similar experiences growing up, and this prompted us to be very close and similar from the get-go. So she was always a good reference for me of how I should be, maturity-wise and perspective-wise. Valerie has always been a touchstone for the actual practice of balance in my life, something that I'm glad to have now that it's especially difficult. For me, the first 2.5 years of high school was a total blur. Most of what I do remember is struggling to keep my own head intact. But I had two very patient friends that dealt with me throughout this phase, and that's Ryan and Brian. A little confusing sometimes, trust me, I know. Besides being good company, my favorite parts about these two people are, transitively, pieces of myself I see need improvement and refining. I personally struggle a lot with the concept of empathy and level-headedness, whereas Ryan, the giant pair of legs on my left, exudes passive energy, and I always think of Ryan's decisions to help me find balance in my own.
Hey Matthew, that hat makes you look like an idiot. What a loser.
On the other hand, Brian Huang, Mr. Pretentious, is one of the most eloquent and confident people that I know. I'm just glad that I don't have him in my lit period. And is an arrow that never really seems to stop moving forward. I often make bad decisions that I completely understand the consequences of. Self-control has never really been my strong suit. Listening to someone like Brian speak and seeing his accomplishments never fails to keep my head pointed in the right direction. In the same vein, in junior year, I was put into the infamous Mr. Hallstrom's English Honors class, and I was pushed to bounds that I hardly understood at the time. Because of the pandemic, I wasn't able to take a photo with him at the end of the year, so here's a photo of my copy of The Great Gatsby. The greatest novel of all time, hands down, no questions asked. But I digress. I experienced brand new emotions during my time in the first period. Mostly devastating anxiety, but more importantly, a love for analysis and writing. Of any sort that provides more than 40 minutes, that is. With this newfound attachment came my gift of crushing self-awareness. Before that year, I had always viewed life and its struggles as a sort of input-output system, a question that I could answer if I just thought hard enough. But literature has completely broken me in this realm, from Antonio Marez's Paradox of Identity and Ethics to Holden Caulfield's Paradoxical Awareness to O'Brien's Paradox of practically anything you could possibly imagine. The nuance of literature has expanded my thinking and perception of the world more than anything I could ever imagine. I have learned that every perceived answer comes with its own set of questions. I just have to think hard enough. That is my personal path to maturity and development, cutting off impossible perceptions, branch by branch, answer by answer. Through this process, I've realized that as I develop by conquering these issues, I expand my capacity to form and cut more branches. My own little paradox. How cute. Regarding my future plans, I intend to spend the next 4 years studying philosophy and pre-dental at UC Irvine. These two courses embody my primary aspirations. 1, the aforementioned self-growth and thoughtful independence that I hope to fulfill through philosophy, and 2, my passion for orthodontic dentistry. I've spent the past 6 months of quarantine as a dental assistant, and 5 years from now, my goal is to climb my way up to dental school, and specialize and take over my father's practice. That is, assuming that OChem doesn't destroy me along the way. I like to think that I have the future pretty mapped out, but I must admit I am mortified of change and where my struggles may or may not drag me. But hey, at the end of the day, it's just another branch of my existential giving tree, if you will. I really hope that everything will turn out okay. Thank you.